Justin Arnold back here again with another episode of One Step Further. And if you are tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast where we do essentially that, or in hopes to bring your life a step further, whether it be personally, professionally, emotionally, in many different facets. So we bring guests on here. Sometimes I talk for myself, but today we brought my friend Josh Polito, and I asked him to be on here because he's got an amazing story to tell. And I've heard several versions of it over the last few months here or so, yep. And he's actually motivated my life to move a step further, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But Josh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people whatever, your kids, your wife, your job, your life, and then we'll get this thing rolling.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Josh, so a little bit about my story is last year during the in the midst of the pandemic, I was diagnosed with a super rare autoimmune disease that mirrors Hodgkin's lymphoma pretty much to a T. I've been dealing with that since last June. I'm a husband and a father of one, but going to be two pretty soon. Just found out a couple weeks ago we're having another boy. So
exciting,
I'm gonna have two boys. It's gonna be
congrats.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. But yeah, navigating this disease for the past several months has been challenging. Prior to that, it was a whole bunch of I was a pretty healthy guy growing up and stuff, and then all of a sudden it.
I think you're so used to telling the story. Like, really emphasize how rare this is. Like, when first time I met you, emphasize. Right. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but he needs to emphasize how rare this is.
Yeah, so it's rare with who it's common with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And who it's common with is Scandinavian and African American women over 40.
So if you're listening to this and not watching, he's a white dude. So, okay, go on.
Yeah. And it's also whoever gets the disease, it shows up in one organ system, and I have multiple organ systems affected.
So if you didn't get all that, he's got a disease mainly African women, correct, have.
Yeah.
And it's usually in one organ, but he's got it in multitude. So they went all out on this thing for him. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
continue.
I actually just had this conversation with a guy at Johns Hopkins University, and he's a doctor out of Johns Hopkins, and he said I'm in the 2.5% of the worst cases he's ever seen with a disease.
I mean, if you're gonna get it, go all out, right? Like,
yeah. If you're gonna get it, you got to go big, right?
Go big or go home, I guess, right?
Yeah. So at first I had it. It was diagnosed in my lungs. So really, I was doing a mental toughness challenge. It's called 75 Hard at the time with my wife, and we went for a 2-mile walk outside with my son on a Sunday. Came home. I had the worst stomach ache I've ever had in my life. The stomach aches where you just spend the day in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You're drinking water just to try to keep up, and then all of a sudden I left the bathroom after a few hours. I laid down on my couch, and then I felt like I had the worst flu of my life. And then I couldn't breathe. I was having trouble breathing when I was laying down, standing up. Called the hospital. They said, come right in. And obviously it wasn't COVID. And then they took x-rays of my lungs, and they couldn't see through the x-rays, which was unbelievable to me. And I said, so what is this? They're like, well, it could be really bad pneumonia or something else. So a month and a half later.
So like the time frame so far, like from when you started dealing with this to that right there. To when you finally found out.
Yeah. So June, it was June 7th, is June 6th or June 7th. Pretty sure June 7th, and I was in the hospital overnight. And then it was July 22nd when I was diagnosed. So over a month. And
could you imagine? Like, people listen, could you imagine, like, not knowing for a month, and then you come to find out, not only not knowing, oh, here you go, this is what it is.
So it's crazy you say that, because me and my wife for the past 2 years were kind of not knowing. I was, like I said before, I was a pretty healthy guy. Mm-hmm. Overall, it was with the occasional cold or something, and then over the past 2 years I had meningitis, kidney stones, and every other week it seemed like I was getting an upper respiratory infection, or what they thought was an upper respiratory infection. Excuse me. And then then I got diagnosed with this, and they said that this is the cause of all of it. The kidney stones is because now my body overproduces calcium oxalate, and that's what happens.
That's insane.
Yeah, the meningitis is common if it affects your brain. It affects my brain, eyes, nerves that I found out, lungs, sinuses, my skin. I have it in my skin. It shows up. It almost looks like open sores and stuff, but they come and go, and you get like these little nodules every once in a while. So what it's called too, I didn't even name it yet. What they told me I had was it's called pulmonary sarcoidosis, but I have pulmonary sarcoidosis, but I just have sarcoidosis overall, because I have it in multiple places.
So you can Google that later, so
Yeah.
you can figure a little bit more deeper. But.
Yeah, and it's been a wild ride. I was told at one point in time I had a 50-50 shot of living over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I've seen doctors that specialize in this out in Cleveland at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. I've talked to people all over the world with the disease, and that they just have it in one organ, or but they're people have it in their
you're
lungs.
Connected with other people.
Yeah, there's a good foundation out there.
What's the what is the percentage of people who have this though? Like, what's like how they say like 1 in 2 billion? Do you know what do you know what the number is?
So how many people are there in the world?
What is that, like 327 billion or something? I don't know what the number
There's
is.
less than 200,000 people that have what I have.
Yeah, so there. Y'all can do the math later, but it's super, super ridiculously rare. And so, like, treatments, when you think about it, like, for we're still trying to figure out, things like breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, which a lot of people have. So just that, so that's where hospitals and medications and everything's invested in. So I just wanted people to get an idea. So that's part of the reason why I brought him on here. Like, not only is he dealing with this rare thing, he's dealing with not only it in multiple organs, he's dealing with it in all these different things that it affects him on a daily, weekly, monthly, hourly basis of, like, he hasn't even mentioned some of the parts, and we'll probably dive into it, but like nights of not sleeping, but also he's got a kid, he's got a wife, he's got a kid on the way, and the potential of, like, dying, and, like, so that, when I heard his story, it made anything I could have just gotten in a car wreck and stubbed my toe on the way out. Like, I try to keep no cussing on this faith base, but like nothing in my life effing mattered once I heard his story. And then he started to tell me of all the fitness things. He talks about how healthy he is. Like, with all this, he's like, you know what? So what are you doing right now? Why don't you tell people? I don't need to tell you. So, like, as far as we'll bounce around here on this podcast as far as your story, but like, so like on a weekly average basis, you told me it a couple weeks ago, but I want them to hear, like, what are you doing for physical activity, nutrition, all these different things. Talk about your health journey currently and why you're doing it, and those kind of things. Yeah.
So right now, I average. Also, I'll talk about this week. So this week I did CrossFit. I went to a CrossFit class 4 days this week.
4 times CrossFit this week.
And I swam. And I swam 2 nights this week.
Swam 2 nights. Okay.
The first night, actually, I did 3,500 kilometers, and the second night I actually did over 4,000 kilometers. The 3,500 was actually a PR for me because I did it in 43 minutes. I was averaging, it was like a minute something every 100 meters or so, and then I did the 4,000 in 49 minutes.
Yeah, and just for those thinking, it's like, you're like, well, he must not work or something. He's got all this abundant time. No, he works. He works full time.
Yeah, I work full time. I manage an IT.
Yeah, he manages IT. Okay.
Yeah.
And so managing a bunch of employees where he works at a very large company here locally. And so that right there, like, when we met, you were running pretty regularly. You were trying to run.
Yeah, because it wasn't. So it gets worse. You get flare-ups with this a lot. There's a lot of systemic problems. Like I said, it mirrors Hodgkin's lymphoma because it infects, or it gets in your lymph nodes and inflames them. And there's a lot of systemic problems overall, like neuropathy in my legs, and bones like become brittle with specific treatments and stuff. So I bought a treadmill. When this whole thing happened, they called it, it's called the snowflakes disease, because when it shows up, it's different. it shows up differently in every single person that gets this disease.
I don't like that you have it, but I like that name for it because it helps me understand.
Yeah.
Because like just here in Rochester, we've seen snow like 5 different ways in the last week.
Right.
Like yesterday was the cotton fluffy. It's been hard. It's been ice. So that I can kind of relate to that.
So it's also, but the one thing that it does for everybody is it causes severe inflammation everywhere, wherever it touches down, let's say. So the two things I did instantly was I went on an anti-inflammatory diet, and I started cutting out inflammation
Which
foods.
I coach on regularly, shameless plug, but anyways, go ahead.
And then I bought a treadmill. I bought just a used treadmill, offline, and then I started running. I told myself I was going to run at least a mile every day, right? Because at the time I wasn't in the best shape, right? I gained some weight, and
you were having a hard time losing weight just because of the medications you were on and everything else, right?
Yeah, because not in the beginning, like before all this, I wasn't having. But then you get on steroids, and specific steroids cause just weight gain because they people tell you go on diets, don't worry about sodium or anything. Well, I had to worry about everything. I would look at a can of soup that has like nothing in it.
I remember you saying that.
Or I would make homemade soup, which is normally
people talk about this all the time. If I look at cake,
soup.
It makes me gains 10 pounds. But
I would like look at cabbage or like cabbage soup and broth, and I would gain weight because of the sodium. So yeah, that's what I did. I started running a mile. I told myself I was going to run a mile every day, and I did that for a couple weeks, and then it just got real bad on my bones, and it wasn't bad. It was very painful to the point where I couldn't get past it. And then to come to find out that my vitamin D was completely almost depleted out of my body, so then I had to go on vitamin D, which is it's like trial by fire with what I have, because vitamin D, helps bone density.
Yeah.
Right? But it also, if you have too much of it, it could also help increase the chances of kidney stones, which I have a high risk of anyways. So.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And so that's just scope into his week, his day, his month, his year. And that just gives you an idea, so one of the things, like when I heard him running and all this, and then I heard his story, and I've heard a more expanded version, but you guys are hopefully getting an idea and a gist here. And I didn't bring on here he's not this kind of guy, woe was me, but I really enjoyed his energy. And I remember it's because I'm on 100 times the steroids or whatever he said to me, but it's just he still has this good vibe about him. Like you can just feel when you sit around him. He might be tired, he says, and low physical energy, but the fact that he's doing all this, and he may not feel it at times because he's super humble, is that he is motivating people. Because it's for me, for example, for those that don't know, I'm a trainer. I've been doing this for over 15 years. But this is going to come as a surprise for those that don't know. I hate running. I hate it. I tell people they don't need to do it. They really don't. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. I know it sounds weird coming from a fitness and health guy, but if he can run, maybe I can find some joy in it. So I started running, and it hurt, and it sucked, and I was miserable. But I'm still doing it. I do it every Sunday, and now I started bringing my dog in. I've been doing it in the snow, and when it's 16, 12 degrees out, and I found joy in it. And this is where that, one step further, it's literally giving me a day, a half an hour, sometimes even an hour to myself to just marinate, meditate on the week. It actually calms me in a weird way. I find peace in it, and I'm rejuvenated from a whole Sunday, all because of this guy who's doing it under everything he's going through. And I found almost a purpose through his pain, and then through my pain and anguish, which is actually my legs have felt the best they've ever felt. I mean, my body, I'm breathing better. It's incredible how this guy and my Sunday run, which I hated, has turned into something ridiculously enjoyable, and I've seen all the other things that come out of it. So sometimes it's driving towards those things that you hate, and you can actually find joy in it. So anyways, back to your story and everything you're going through. So has anyone else kind of told you this? Have you seen other people motivated by your story? Have you witnessed you just living your life to the fullest, even though you've got all these things that feel like they're pulling you down literally? So
yeah, I have, and I mean, I think I've told you how I feel about it. I don't think, the way I look at it is this: I don't think I was motivational or am motivational, right?
Just being you, man.
Right. I mean, because last week, last week I couldn't get out of bed for a lot of it. I felt that I didn't do a good job with work, and I was kind of let things go at the house. I had a week, right, where it was really bad.
You had a week like most people have a normal week, and they beat themselves up, or they're depressed, or they go to drinking, or they go to drugs, or they go to whatever. You're dealing with normal wife, kids, job on top of the poop storm of this illness,
right.
And medication. So
yeah, right. And so normally, to go a little further, every Friday I take I'm on a form of chemotherapy, and it is the worst thing every Friday. It's absolutely terrible.
And anybody that's gone through chemo that's listening to this can relate, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, it's so I'm not as an aggressive form that someone with cancers would.
Yeah, like my dad had prostate cancer. My mom had a brain tumor. He didn't do chemo, but my mom did. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of aggressive forms out there, and I'm on a form of it, and it's absolutely terrible. And normally I would tell you by Thursday, like Wednesday night, Thursday, I actually feel better. Last week was the week where Thursday came around, and I was still. The best way I can describe it is it feels like the worst hangover of your life, like axe-splitting headaches. On top of that, I'm on another drug, which is a type of opiate, but it's specific for brain, like your nerves, like your nervous system, CNS, stuff like that. And I take it at night, and I wake up in the morning, and I feel I can't walk. My equilibrium is completely off. It takes a minute, right? So in saying that, last week I don't find myself to be motivational, right? I look at it as one thing. Like, you make a choice. You're either gonna choose to live, or you're going to choose to not live with all this stuff.
So listen to that. Choose to live or choose to not. I mean, I think all of us can answer that question every day. Like, I have a thing taped on my truck, and I put it there for me, but I also put it for my kids to see. It's like, what you're doing today are the things that you need to ask yourself kind of I'm going to paraphrase, but like, is this doing something to improve your life, your family life, or those around us, or in some form or fashion to spread love, joy, peace, whatever. And like, that's what you're talking about. Like, we all have these choices to live or die every single day, like, whether we're going through a disease or not. And I think that's huge. So like, with that, like how, like, you have life stressors, then you have this stressors, like what drives you, what motivates you to get up every day? Like, what's like, so many people like don't even want to go into the Mondays, but like, here you are.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what is that pushes you? To live. You're choosing to live, not only live, but live your fullest. Like, there's so many things holding you back, but you're there to, like, how are you present with your wife and kids? Like, I
think that's the motivation, right? Like, I'm as in love with my wife as I was like the moment I knew I was gonna marry her. And my kid,
she's gonna have to listen to this.
Like, my son is, he's everything to me, and I know my son, who's not born yet, is going to be everything to me too.
So they're watching. They're watching you, and you want to show up to be there for them, and because they're your driving force. And I always say this is like, your kids learn more by what they see than by what you say. And so you're
right.
A testimony. You're going to show that, like, you literally can go through hell and back, and what you're dealing with. And like, again, I say this term lightly because, again, shameless plug, it's the title of my book, but purpose through pain. Like, you've got your pain is not only purpose for yourself to, like, you're not going to let it hold you down, but it's also like inspiring other people, your family, me, and others around you. So
yeah, I mean, I guess so.
No, it is, because it's like, and again, I didn't bring these people out like, I feel guilty for feeling bad. No, it's okay to be sad and feel bad, or be mad, or like have a bad moment during the day and get in a fight. Like, I'm not saying like you should feel guilty for any of that. I'm just saying, like, here's this guy going through these things, and just to know that, like, to remind you, like, I hate to say it, but it could be worse, right? Like, even in your situation, but like, especially everybody listening. And I think that's why you got to make the most of each day, because you're not promised tomorrow.
Right, and I think you mentioned earlier, like, you have like the everyday stressors, right? Well, me being faced with this, like, there's this unknowing, and there's been times where it gets very emotional, where I would consider myself emotionally compromised to make any sort of decisions or anything, right? When, a doctor says, okay, this is...
You just want to get angry.
This symptom, right, this symptom you have could potentially mean this, right? So when we found out that, the inflammation and the swelling in my brain and it produces granulomatous tumors and things like that, we were like, am I going to lose my memory? And me and my wife didn't talk to anyone that weekend. We just we spent all that time together. And it makes paying bills and the monotony of, just the day-to-day, the work week, the things you got to deal with, the complaints that, that are out there, it just makes them seem non-important. Like things that you shouldn't be stressed about. Mm-hmm. The things that I should be stressed about is how am I going to make the next moment the most enjoyable moment for everyone around me.
See, and I think I asked you this last time I saw you, was like, was if you weren't going through this, and you gave a good answer then, and I just, like, if you weren't going all through this, and you kind of said you didn't know, but like, I'll ask you again. So basically I asked him is like, if you weren't dealing with this disease, would your mindset be where it is? Would you be as active and striving for the top tier of your health? Would you be showing up like you show up every day, even when it's like you showed up here when I'm sure like you didn't want to? Like
I absolutely feel terrible. Actually, that's you say that, right? And this is sidestepping a little bit. But my wife, she tells me, and in the beginning of all this, like when I started, I'm like, I knew I needed help, right, in order to maintain weight because of all the drugs that I was on, and they promote weight gain when I shouldn't be gaining weight, and that puts too much stress on your body. My body was already overstressed. So, and I tell her, I'm like, every day that I go to the gym, I want you to know that I don't want to go. I'm like, and that's the reason why I go. Because I don't want to, and my body is telling me no because of all the pain that it's in. I'm like, but the fact that I go is the reason that's going to help me get past the next challenge that I face.
Yeah, and that motivates me, like, because there's things as running a business. I'm an entrepreneur, and I run multiple businesses, and like, there's things that I don't want to do, but I remember, like, and even in the fitness world, again, I talk about running, like, I didn't want to run, and there's things in here sometimes that I know I have to do, and that's how I motivate a lot of my clients. Usually what I find with even clients from a personal training, a physical standpoint, is the things they resist the most, things they don't want to do. Like I had a girl the other night, I don't like front squats, it hurts my wrist. It was like, that means you got bad wrist mobility, so I'm not going to, exactly. So it's like,
that's why you should do
like, I think that's why some people don't do the things they're so capable of and so can do. And I always say, like, you have an opportunity every day to really like serve and set a legacy, and you have an opportunity every day to like maximize the potential that God has gifted you, or whatever you guys believe in, that this life that you have. And it sounds like you're doing it. You're going to have tired days, you're going to have tired moments, but it's like you got to almost drive towards the things that you're resisting the most sometimes, because like this thing that's like constantly holding you back, you're not going to let it win. And we've talked about this before, and I've talked about it on Sunday, like I won't let a person, an emotion, like somebody from my past or something, like not let me do something, just like you won't let this disease take you over, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, especially like I look at it now.
You want to be in control, like, right? Like,
right. And there's a stigma that comes, like, I need to take care of my family. I need to take care of, we have 3 dogs. I got to take care of the dogs.
Sounds like you are, though.
And stuff. Well, it wasn't always that way in the beginning, right? Because the lungs and the breathing, like I get winded quick, a lot quicker than I ever have before. Like I used to be able to run like 30 miles a week, right? This was, obviously years ago, but it was a thing, and I've never had a problem. And I was carrying a 30-pound bag of dog food up the stairs after I was diagnosed, and I got 4 steps up, and I had to sit down, and I couldn't make it up.
How'd that make you feel?
Oh, pretty bad. Like, I'm like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I broke down right then and there, and I said, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that this does not happen. Right? And
I think it's motivation. Like, real men cry, I always say, and like it's okay in those moments because that motivated you to get your ass back up.
I mean, you got to do it, like, right? You got to.
And it's funny, I'll talk about crying, like a lot, like as men we're like told. There's a side note, but I think as men we're told like crying is weak, suck it up, deal with it. But I think the real men actually do, and
and I talk about this, and in fact, I'm talking about it in my book because it's like there's like real science to show that's almost like getting massage, sitting in a hot tub. It's a parasympathetic thing, and like what it did is it relaxed you in that moment, and then it got you to think a little clearer, like get the heck up and let's get moving, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
No, I mean that was it. It's like you don't want to, right? You want to be in control of your life, and I think it was that moment that I was like, I made a decision. It's not even a decision. I think I came to a realization, and the realization was that, you know, prior to that moment, it was not knowing, fear, like just fear of the unknowing of what's going to happen.
I think everyone can relate to that too, not knowing fear in a daily life. So yeah.
But then I made a decision that I said I am in control of all of those emotions.
You're in control of your emotions. You may not be able to control some things, but you're able to control your emotion. I think that's a key point too, and I'm going to start with that because it's like I've got a tattoo literally on my arm. If you guys can't see this, and it's a dragon wrapped around a cross, and there's waves around the dragon. So, and it says "Let go, let God." So that's my mantra. Like I say, like control what you can, and for me, like God do the rest, because there's something refreshing in that, and it's kind of like universe, whatever. Like you went, okay, I can control my emotion. I can control this. I may not control the weight of the bag or how many steps there are. I may not can control this disease. I may not control, my boss yelling at me, whatever. Not that your boss is, but it's like he got refocused and took control of what he can. I think we sometimes overthink so many of these things in our life where like there's all these things around us that we want to control that we can't, so we get stressed and frustrated and we just quit, give up, get whatever, return to some bad things. We don't go to the gym.
Right.
We're in our own feelings, but you just talked about there. You need to learn to control your feelings and control your emotions, get the hell back up, move that bag, right?
Yeah. Right. And I also
let it defeat you.
Right. The other and excuses, man. Like I can think of that's the easy way, right? It's so easy. I can be like, well, I have this thing. I should probably just rest, right? Well, what's that gonna do?
Yeah, you need to sit back and like it's okay to rest. Like again, he's not saying never sleep. Like,
no, yeah, I'm definitely not saying that.
No, I think
you definitely
it's just
need to rest.
I think in the overall message, there's so many right here, man. There's so many nuggets in this already. Like, well, the biggest it got me thinking man, where was I going? But the overall message is like you got. I forgot what I was gonna say. I lost my train of thought. But essentially, it's like. Life is going to come at you, and the dragon or the devil is always going to be doing push-ups in the parking lot with you, and you're not going to be able to control these things, and it's okay to rest, but you need to be aware of your emotions. I remember what I was going to say. So it's like we're so busy, go, that we don't have time to meditate or think or take a moment, and that's what I was talking about that running. I have so much time to think. I have so many creative ideas that come. I have time to unwind. It's a stressor. Because you cried, a parasympathetic activity. You had time to think in your emotions. You learned to control that. You weren't going to let this control. And then you can decide whether rest is the right time or getting up and moving. Obviously, resting on the stairs isn't the ideal, but this, I think, in our life, so many times we go for the rest. We go for the easy route. No, I could go to the gym or I could just sit here, and we try to find justifications in it all. You could have justified it. You could find a million justifications, so you had to decide.
And that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And the whole, when you say, I don't have time to meditate or this or that, I found going to the gym, going to CrossFit, doing, just pushing myself, and the swimming. The swimming is a big thing. That is one of the most hardest, one of the most challenging things that I've ever put my body through.
This is about you, but I got a swimming story if we get a chance.
And I'm not even, I'm not talking about leisurely swimming. I'm talking about one end of the pool to the other end of the pool, back and forth, nonstop. And I actually find that more meditative than actually sitting there and trying to focus and meditate.
Yeah, I can feel that. When I was at the Y, so I used to be a lead trainer for the Y, I started taking up. I could swim to save my life, basically.
Yeah.
I kind of just used my arms though. I was like a top heavy swimmer. Finally, one day, a lifeguard that I knew, she was a collegiate level swimmer. Tell you the level I'm dealing with here. She was so nice about it. She could have been like, "You suck." She was like, do you mind if I give you some pointers? I'm like, please do. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just want to start doing this to mix up my routine. I feel like I'm looking at I'm functional, but here I can't really swim to save my life. And she's like, you got legs, right? I'm like, right. I'm not using them, am I? And she's like, no, you're just kind of no wonder why you're getting worn out. I was getting worn out. I'm sitting here I'm doing 100 pull-ups in the water, basically. And it's
all arms.
And literally that's that simple. And then it got to where she was helping me, how to kick my legs. I was literally just using my feet and I was using my hip. And then, anyways, long story short, I got better at it, and then it just became a flow state. And I was like, man, this just made it easier. I could go longer, and then it became meditative, and all because somebody stopped me to be like, hey, you look like you're drowning, basically.
Yeah.
So that was my swimming story. And it's just, again, we got it. Like, I was embarrassed. There is these people all swimming laps, literally laps around me in this pool. I was scared. And just like the running thing, it wasn't like a fear there, but it was like, you know, I was making justification excuses. Oh, sometimes my knee and hips bother me. And it's just like anything else. And I tell my clients, when you think about pain, it grows. Anything grows that you have your mind in. If you think less of yourself, you become more depressed, and you think even less. If you think, you know, you only date bad men, that grows. Anyways, I digress. The point is, when I thought about the knee and the hip, because I've had past injuries, well, guess what? After 2 weeks, I stopped thinking about it. I told myself, quit thinking about it, just run. And I took the dog. Guess what happened? All my pain is gone. I'm running, and it feels like I could run for days. And now it's like 18 degrees with a dog and snow in my face, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And I sound crazy. You're probably like, Justin, you're crazy. This guy's crazy. What? No. But at the end of the day, it's all, again, it goes back to what you guys hear continually, mindset. But you need to take the time to just, even if it's like 1 minute a day, if you don't have any downtime, you need to carve it out. And here, I'll give you this tip, and then I'll let him continue here. Is one thing that I do is, and this is a nugget of moving your lifestyle forward, every time I get in a vehicle, whether it's go home, go somewhere, whatever, I breathe in 6 times, inhale, exhale, and that just relaxes me enough to be focused on whatever I need to be focused, whether it's what it comes after that car ride or whether it's during it. And now, like, when I drive the car, it's like, you know, if somebody cuts me off, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're going through. It's like, you mother, you know, so it's like, it's crazy.
So we talked about earlier, like, I manage a team of people, right? And that it brings up something good. I actually just sent out recently, that's a really good thought process, is you know, we're trained to fix problems, to always see the bad in my, like, part of the world. And I sent this article to them, and it was, stop looking for the flaws in every situation. Don't look for the flaws. Try to take a step back and actually realize that, like, someone did something. Well, what is, what's the bigger picture? You know, you say big picture, it's cliche, but it's not. It's a real thing. Like, you have to take a step back and be like, you know, is this, like, if someone is a little rude to you that you know, right? Well, what are they going through? Like, what's happening in their world? That's something that,
like, if somebody yells at you because of their belief system and on Facebook, like, is that really worth letting their feelings towards something control your emotions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
like,
absolutely
how
don't
many
think
times?
so.
And you need to ask yourself, like, if you're really trying to win an argument and you're getting emotional through that argument, who's really winning that argument?
Right.
Is it the person that maybe thinks they have a better debate? What I've known is, from every Facebook fight, every political argument, pretty much any fight for the most part, unless it's constructive, nobody wins. In my outlook, really, nobody wins.
You know what I've learned recently too about the whole, you know, whatever your beliefs are, political systems. All of my close friends and I, like, we sit on different sides of the fence with pretty much everything, but we're still, like, really close friends, because it's never a, you know, it's always about the individual, and it's not ever about the, you know. It's about the bigger picture.
Because we all want to take a deeper core look at this individual and why they believe what they believe, and not like try to change their beliefs, because it's like I think we all want to be we all are craving, especially during COVID, craving for, at our innate core primal nature, we're connection and tribalness, small groups of people, and to connect and be like-minded. Yeah. So we're almost forcing it, and then we have to feel like we got to fit a certain board, and if somebody disagrees at it, it's almost like we feel challenged, when really we should just appreciate it and understand it. Right. And the only thing I think, for me, I'm married to a black woman, is like, the only thing I think worth arguing and like kicking somebody is a racist. But outside of that, like, if you have a different set of parties or beliefs or religions, like, I think that it comes down to, like, as simple as, like, kindness, love, and, like, those two things, and, like, and just building relationships, and knowing that, like, life is about that, and relationships and service. Because, like, what changed my perspective was about, you know, when I first started training, and I kept hearing, and I would ask this question to my clients, like my older clients, like, what kind of drives you? Why are you here? But I'd also ask, like, like, you know, what do you miss the most about being younger, and what do you have regrets or about? And every single time it wasn't about, man, I wish I worked harder, made more money. It was always, I wish I spent more time with this person. I wish like kids, wife, I wish I didn't work as much. It was always like, they realized money was what you kind of made it. It was kind of a relative, and they were happy when they were usually like early on when they had lower income than they were when they started making more. Again, money isn't a bad thing. It's just how you utilize it as a tool. And so I heard that message, and that's just how my life has always been, like just to kind of like build relationships, like make connections. And again, we all fall short. We're talking from a place because we've made these mistakes. Yeah. Like we've screwed up. We've been in these places that we're able to talk
lots of times
because we've learned. And I think that's the thing. Like, say you yell at your wife, husband, you have an argument with your kid. Again, those are always going to happen, or your boss, or something bad. The key message is that you just learn and that you grow from those things. So, anyways, this podcast is one step further. So that's what we're always trying to do. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that if anybody that's listening that you think could help them, nudge them, or any proverbial, trivial, I don't know, blabber you wanted to chat about?
I mean, the biggest thing overall that I've learned, you know, and I'm probably still going to learn a lot more, but I think so far the biggest thing is, you know, I thought my life was over, right? And I think everybody has those moments where they get really bad news and they think, my life's never going to be the same again. My response is, you're absolutely right. It's not. And you need to figure out how to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Just because it seems like it's really bad, it's not. You gotta dig deep, and you gotta find the positive. Because even though I was dealt this terrible thing, and yes, every day is a struggle and it's hard, but you know what? It's not all bad all the time, because I have moments and I have things that make me happy, and I know I make I have people that I make happy, and you gotta find it.
So there you go. He just gave you the secret to life. No, and that just reminded me. So something I do, you guys know I journal, and I'll put a link to my journal there. Again, another shameless plug. That's free, by the way. Like, all these things are free, but I just like to, if I can help people. Something I do in my journal is write my best version of yesterday. And something my oldest daughter has really taken up recently. And it was actually part of a coaching, because I was seeing where her mind shift was going. She's 11. She's about to reach puberty, which is freaking me the heck out. But I saw the hormonal thing. So I wanted her to formulate, not that she didn't already, but even more positive. Again, 1% better is a thing in my household. Like, we're all good. We're living a good life, but how can we just keep working towards 1% better in all aspects? So she's been writing down 3 of my favorite, best moments of each day, and it was cool. I got home late last night, and she was already in bed, but they're on the table. This is one of my daddy cry moments. Is like 3 best versions, and it was the third part. Like, we went sledding yesterday. We did some other things. I might cry on it. But it was the third part that like really got to me, and it was. And I'm saying this because it's like, man, it's so simple, and I've noticed how just in a couple weeks time how it's changed her in an entire day just by writing 3 things for 5 minutes. But it said, we also ate the best food, and we didn't have to do anything because it was already made by the best cook ever, Daddy. So it's just one of these cute things. That's nice, that, man. Like, yeah, right? It's like these simple things that I do on a Sunday to prep to make sure that no one has to do any work during the week. Because I load up my schedule pretty packed Monday through Saturday, but Monday through Friday for sure. And I want to make sure that they're eating healthy, nutritious food, and no one has to worry about it. And it's one of those ways to serve. It doesn't take much time, 2 hours on a Sunday, and I get them to help cook. But the thing is, it's like, the point I bring it up, an 11-year-old is writing these things, so you as an adult can write these things. And it's 3 reasons, 3 of the best versions. So it's just perspective. Could she have had a F in school? Could she have gotten a fight with her brother? For sure. I'm not telling you to ignore that. But what I see is I see her waking up. She started waking up at like 5 a.m., to just have more of a day, to spend more time with her dad, more time with the dogs. Like it's gotten her excited about waking up early instead of sleeping in all the time. Again, she gets her 8 hours. I don't want to but all I'm saying is, like, if you change your perspective and outlook and start looking at these little moments like he's doing and looking at the opportunities that he can take to impact life and more or less suck it up, I guess, but or not, or
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes you just have to.
and
Right.
I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast at least are doing a lot of things for other people, because I'm guilty of that. But sometimes it's okay to do things for yourself, because doing things
Absolutely.
for yourself are doing
100%.
things for other people. Because if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't love yourself, as I tell my kids, it's harder to take care of and love other people.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, again, we could probably talk more, but if you want to reach this guy, is it cool if you give them some information on how to reach you, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So how can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you?
My email.
Okay, cool. So we'll
Email.
put that in a link, because
Yeah.
no one's going to write it down. Most of
Yeah.
y'all are probably driving. So anyways, private email. And if you have any questions, you can reach through me. I'll put some links below that journal. Again, if you enjoy this, please share with people you think might be beneficial. This is totally a listener supported. We don't make a dime off this podcast. Literally just provide some value to those that are listening. And as always, if you guys got anything you'd like to hear on here, anybody we'd like to talk to, or things you'd like us to talk about, feel free to reach out to us. And again, just thank you for all you listeners. This thing has been really growing over the last few months, and we appreciate every single one of you. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of One Step Further. Take care.
See ya.
Peace.